Hello again and thanks for joining. Today we've got another Hornby model to have a look at. It's number 2218 and it's a West Country 462 locomotive. This one is called Wilton. It's a super detail model, so we're going to have a look at see what that detail is. It is made in China, but it's not a DCC model. It is starting to show its age a little bit. However, when it was purchased new, it was $92.50. You can see the price tag here. So it is quite an expensive model, but is it worth it? Is that super detail really worth £92.50? Well, let's check it out and we'll see what we've got. So this box is looking not too bad overall. This was a second-hand purchase, but you can see that it does have some shelfware. For example, up here in the corner is a little bit of a bash, a little bit of crease along here, but not too bad overall. It's quite an interesting box as well. It's got the picture of the model here rather than the actual model inside the box. But let's get this open and we'll see what we've got. First out of the packaging, we've got this leaflet here. It's specific to this particular model and it has some general information as normal. Inside we've got some lubrication information and also some information about how to replace the motor if you need to. And we've also got this leaflet here which says about the super detail pack. So these are the extra parts that you can add on to this model. You can see we've got a brake pipe, some steps and some other bits and pieces of the brake gear. And here it looks as though it's explaining about different head codes that you can have. So here we have the model out of the packaging and it really impresses with its presence. It's such a large locomotive, this one. We'll start off with this pack of additional parts which you can add in. This one hasn't been opened from the factory and we can see that we've got the fireman and the driver in here. So that's great that we've got those guys back in this model. We've got some underframe braking parts here and a whole wealth of additional little pieces, the head codes, the vacuum pipes. There's an extra screw there for the coupling as well, and we've got little lamps as well, so it's really nice. We've got a good selection of extra parts to add on to this model. So let's take a closer look at this locomotive. We'll start at the front here. The character of this locomotive is really nicely captured here, I think. We've got some really nice detail on the smoke box door, some additional parts that have been added on here, and you can see the printing of the number and the shed plate. And we've got these things here representing little lights. They're just picked out in silver paint. Those aren't illuminated at all. And we've got this panel down here and the buffer beam here. It's quite a plain buffer beam, but there are some rivet details around the buffers, and these are metal and they are also sprung as well. So really characterful front of this locomotive. And as we look down the side of the locomotive, you can really see the character of Wilton here. It's got a lot of nice rivet detail and these additional transfers that have been added in of the lining. You can see that they're quite bright though, they're catching the light there, quite shiny, so that's not really prototypical compared to the nice satin colour of the rest of the paintwork here. But the rivet detail is really good and the nameplate is also excellent here. It's an additional part I think added on, it looks like that. And we've got this additional transfer here which says West Country class as well. This is a really nice hatch here, a lot of deep relief on it and lots of rivet detail. And then as we move further down towards the cab, we've got another transfer going around here, around the number. The number is very clear, it's a transfer that's been added in. You can see the windows here, they're almost flush fit, and they've got some nice painting to separate them as well that's been added onto the clear plastic. Just at the edge of the cab here, we've got these handrails, very finely moulded and very prone to breaking, but it's good that these ones haven't. If you look up top, the rivet detail continues. There's a really nice chimney here. It's very deep, but you can actually see all the way through the locomotive. You can actually see there that you can see underneath. So I'm not sure that's really that good. Anyway, as we move further down, there's some really nice rivet detail, an extra part picked out in copper there. And these parts are added in metal parts as well. Crucially to notice here, there's no moulding line along the top of the boiler. It's one of the things I've mentioned before, that when these models were made in the UK, they often had moulding marks at the top which really spoiled them. These ones that are being made in China don't seem to have that. Above the cab here, there's this hatch which can slide back and forward in real life, but it doesn't move in this model. But it does look very convincing and there's even more rivet detail as well. At the back of the boiler, there's a lot of nice detail inside the cab here. This is all picked out in different paint, it's not additional parts. I've seen more modern Hornby models have these as extra parts that have been added in, but here they're just painted onto the back of the moulding. But it's really quite convincing, it looks pretty good, and it would look really good with the driver and fireman in there. You can see even here that this is glazed and these are flush fit, so that's really nice. And the glazing at the front of the cab is also flush fit as well. This is a really nice detail here where this frame has got these openings in it. I guess that's prototypical. It looks really good here as well. On this side of the locomotive, we've got some additional pipework here picked out in copper. This is just plastic, but it does look very convincing that it is actually metal. And as we look further down, We've got some really nice spring detail on this trailing pony truck here which moves. What's really impressive on this model is the wheels. That's a really nice and cool looking design. It's a black plastic insert with a metal surround, but it does look really good and very characterful of this steam locomotive. The brake gear is very good as well, additional parts that are in line with the wheels, and we've got these parts which are darkened metal as well, and gunmetal effect. It's quite simple here at the piston end. There's not much on these locomotives, and it's certainly more detailed on some others, but this is quite a good arrangement and it's all made of metal. Here we've got some more rivet detail, and one of the things I don't like about this is that you can see the little part of the buffer coming through here. When you push it in, it moves like that, and I think that's a limitation of this model. I think that could have been a bit better or hidden, just even with some black paint. The front truck has got the characterful wheels again, and it has some more rivet detail too. It moves enough around here and a little bit up and down, so it'll keep this locomotive on the track, I think. Underneath here we've got pickup on the central wheels, and it looks like the middle one is driven, and obviously the connecting rods will drive the other two. This connector goes to the tender, and it has some metal pickup as well there. So let's have a look at the tender. So this is another nice moulding, and it has a bit of weight as well, which is good. It'll keep it on the track. Here at the business end, there's a really nice checker plate here, and we've got the brake wheel, and we've got some glazing here, which is flush fit as well. It doesn't look too good on this end though, but those are such tiny windows. It's quite impressive that they've decided to glaze them. And you can see all the hatches here, very convincing detail on the main moulding. And we've got these steps coming down, which are very fine. I think they might actually be extra parts as well. And these handrails as well, being faithfully reproduced, and they're very thin too, which is great. The side of the tender is pretty flat here. I think that's prototypical. There's no rivet detail at all. We've got the same kind of transfer with the same kind of sheen on it here, and the logo. This is a very good transfer. It's very detailed and clear. Down below we've got some really nice rivet detail, and the spring detail is good as well. The wheels are those characterful wheels as well, with the nice black inserts, and we've got brake gear here in line with them. You can see that you can add in the extra part here into these little holes to add the framing underneath the tender too. At the back of the tender there's a lot more detail going on. We've got another set of very fine steps here. We've got the sprung buffers in metal and the buffer beam in nice red paint. And then we've got this bit of framework here on the back with some steps. This one seems to have come away a little bit. I just need to pop that back in. It's indicative of how fragile this is, that's come away. And we've got these handrails coming up onto the top as well. So these could easily be broken off. It's really nice that they've been added into this model. You can see the same arrangement with the lights. It's just silver paint, but you can see that it catches the light very nicely. And we have the vacuum pipe and the dummy hook there as well on the buffer beam. On top of the tender, there's a little bit of dust on this one, but you do have some nice hatches and this arrangement of tanks here with some pipework in between. The coal, I think, lets it down a little bit. It's not too bad, but I've definitely seen better ones. But what is good about this is that the coal can come off very easily, so you could replace that with some of your own choosing. Looking underneath, you've got pickup from these wheels as well, which helps this locomotive on the track. And that power is fed through to the front of the locomotive through this panel here. So this model is impressed so far. It's got a lot of character and a lot of really nice fine detail. Let's see how it runs on the test track. Okay, here we are on the test track and we've got the power on. Let's give it some juice and see what happens. So it's not running too good there. It might just be because it hasn't been run for a while. I'm just going to give it a little bit of oil on the wheels and the valve gear. Okay, let's give it another try. A little bit of oil there seems to have done the trick because it seems to run fine now. It's quite quiet and it crawls along quite nicely. So I guess we should see how much this locomotive weighs. So this locomotive weighs 410 grams. So there's no denying the sheer presence of this locomotive. Wilton from Hornby is really impressive just because of its sheer size. The streamlined panelling on the side of this locomotive has really made it look like quite a large big thing, and on track it certainly dwarfs a lot of other models. It's got some really nice impressive parts to this model. I really like the wheels, that's quite an interesting design, and I also like all the detail on the back of the tender with the little steps and ladders that have been added on. It's really nice. There are other really quite cool things on this model, like the fact that the coal can be removed very easily, and even though it doesn't have lighting, I still like the way that the lights have been picked out, and it's certainly quite impressive. Only a very small amount of niggles on this model. One is the glazing at the back of the tender. It just looks a little bit odd, and I'm not quite sure whether it really needed it, but it is interesting that it's there, I suppose. And I think possibly the performance of this model isn't just quite as good as it could be. I think it's certainly got enough weight to pull a long train, but it just didn't seem quite as smooth as I think it possibly should be. I'm not sure when this model came out, but being badged as super detailed, I'm not sure it is really accurate. Certainly by today's standards, this just seems like normal detail, nothing super about it. And it seemed to rely on that bag of extra parts to be the extras that make this a super detailed model. But there's no denying this is an impressive and imposing model to add to your collection. Let me know what you thought about my analysis of this model in the comments below. I'd love to know what you think about this. And if you liked this video, please give it a thumbs up. It really helps this channel grow. I'll put this on the turntable so you can see all the way around. But that's it for today. Thanks for watching. See ya!